Welcome, beautiful people. I invite you as you are coming in to take a couple of deep breaths with me. We're going to go on a journey today. It's going to be powerful. It's going to come from the heart. It's come from the mind. It's going to come from the consciousness. It's going to come from the love. I can't wait to show you what I've seen, what is possible. Take a moment. Take a couple breaths. Imagine the world as you'd like it to be. Imagine your life as you'd like it to be. Take a moment to connect deeply to whatever power you believe exists, so that you can become a force for good in this world. I'm so glad that you're here. If you have friends who are in this group and would like to be part of this conversation, please do me a favor and tag them in. I would love for us to bring up the vibes that together we create the possibilities of a world that we desire. The possibilities of a world that is full of joy and promise and opportunity for people of all kinds. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Potentiality series. My name is Suzanne Goldstein. It's my deep honor to be here with all of you today. If you've never seen me live before, or this is the first time you've even seen my name, please let me know. I'd love to greet you. And if you are someone that I have been playing with here on the internet for a while, thank you for tuning in. If you have friends who want to be here with you, do me a favor and just tag them, because gosh knows we've all got so much going on and we forget what happens here in different places online. So before we get started, I would love for you to set an intention. This talk is called Be a Force for Good in Your Life and in the World. And I would love for you to set an intention below. What is it that you would like to get out of this conversation? If you can let me know where you're at, I'm going to take you on a journey to hopefully help you see a vision of what is possible, not only for you internally, but for our own connection to what I call humanity-centeredness. The idea that we live as humans, but we also incarnated into this human experience so that we could do what we were put here to do. And when we center our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions around humanity and the needs of humanity, we expand, our hearts expand, our consciousness expands, and we become infinitely rich, not only in financial wealth, but in so many others. So thank you for being here. Let me see who's here with me. I can't wait to dive in. Hello, Ryan, Elizabeth. Hello, Simi. Hello, Kimberly. Hello, Jocelyn. Hi, Georgianne. Nicole's here. Hi, Tina. Hello, Olivia. I love you. Hi, Carrie. Carol. Oh my gosh, so glad you're here. Hello, Rebecca. Katie. Hello. Oh my goodness. All right, so I'm sure people will be coming and going. I am going to talk today for at least an hour. If you can't stay for the whole time, that's okay. Mark what time you needed to pop out, because you're not going to want to miss the rest of it. I'm going to take you on a journey. Now, I posted something in the thread, which is an image that I have for you. It's an image called the Tao of DAREHuman. We're going to be going through that. So if you want to open up a separate browser window, you can have that image next to you. Perfect. If you can't, I'm going to show you what it looks like with my hands. You're welcome to take a note. It's all good. So before we get started, I don't think that we can have this conversation without context. The context of what is happening in the world at this moment. And whether you're watching this video live with me today or you're catching it on replay tomorrow or a year from now, this is a moment in time where I don't think we'll be forgetting it very soon. The where you were when Russia invaded Ukraine. Because this is the first time in 80 years that we've had this kind of behavior in the world. So I want us to just set a context, because this conversation is about becoming a force for good in your own life, but also in the world. We got to know what's going on in the world. So let's just take a moment of silence. You can say whatever prayer, thought, light sending that you have, but I would love for you to contemplate who you want to be in the world, knowing what's going on in the world right now. What kind of person do you want to be as you show up? So let's just take a moment together to send our collective energy and thoughts to the brave people of Ukraine, to the beautiful people of Russia who don't agree with their leader and what he is doing, to the people who have lost lives, the people who are fleeing. Let's send them prayers and love, and we're going to talk about other ways that we can support. The context is very important in my life, so let's take a moment. Thank you so much for doing that with me. Hello, Georgina. Hi, Diane. All right, so what is today about? That moment that we just took, I call this business as usual with an asterisk. Now, what are we talking about? A lot of people came to me in the past week since things were invaded in Ukraine, and they've said, can I keep selling? Can I keep growing? Can I keep doing? Can I make offers? Should I be teaching classes? What should I do? I am overwrought with what's going on, and I feel heartbroken, and I don't know how to be. So what I've been telling my private clients and my Elevate Her clients and anyone who wants to listen to any of my lives is that we need to keep going, business as usual, but with an asterisk. And what that asterisk means, and drop below, business as usual, and put a little asterisk behind it. What the asterisk means is that we live in the consciousness of what we're doing, what's going on in this world. We're not living in isolation to where the world is and what is going on. We're actually living with the asterisk, knowing that sometimes you might have someone in your class who's Ukrainian. You might have someone in your class who's Russian. You might have a client who's dealing with challenging issues. I met a woman yesterday. She's half Russian, half Ukrainian, and there's a part of her that feels put upon. So when we live in the asterisk, what it means, thank you, Jocelyn, for dropping that. When we live in the asterisk, the business as usual with an asterisk, it's adding consciousness and context to what it is that we're doing in life. And so this whole conversation about what it means to be a force for good is truly about living in that asterisk. Now, the asterisk that we're living through now might be a different asterisk than we were living through when the sea happened. I don't say these words anymore because I've been very banned on this platform quite a bit. Yay, living in the asterisk. I'm so glad. And so what happens is we get the opportunity to ask ourselves in that asterisk, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world, not just in my own life? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'd love for you to drop for me below answer to this question. What is, if you take a second and you really think about it, and I asked you to drop your intentions, I didn't see any intentions going in, but if you have intentions for what you want to learn about what it means to be a force for good in your life and in the world, I'd love for you to drop that below. And also, if you feel inclined, I'd love to understand from you, what is one thing that you'd like to see in the world be different? It doesn't have to be about the current situation in Ukraine. It can be about anything. What one thing in the world, if you could wave your magic wand and the icebergs on the poles would regrow, is that your one thing? If you could wave your magic wand and species wouldn't go extinct, is that what you want? What is the one thing that you wish were different? For me, it's racial equity and social justice. I wish I could wave my wand and make that happen. What is it for you? I'm not asking you to commit to anything. I'm just asking you to get into the vibes of what it means for context and consciousness to come into your life. So I look forward to your answers as you drop them below. This is going to be a very interactive talk because I believe that the best way that we integrate new information into our bodies is by literally experiential learning. Ryan says, for everyone to remember we are all connected, as my daughter says, at the heart. Oh my goodness, I love that. Your daughter is brilliant. Jocelyn says, my intention today is to re-anchor what I've already learned from you and take it in the new. I love it. Hello, Sandra. Hello, everybody joining. We're dropping our intentions, and we're all also dropping what is the one thing we'd like to see be different in the world. This is about us dreaming together. What's your dream? Drop your dream below, because it's going to really help set the context of this conversation, particularly because I'm going to get a sense of where your hearts are. So Rebecca says, for everyone to know they have the power within to heal and to be more powerful than they've ever been led to realize. Oh, gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't it be incredible if all people were born feeling loved, unconditionally loved, and they didn't have to fight for it? There's so many things that would be beautiful for us to change in the world, to see be different. And that is what DAREHuman is all about. DAREHuman is about activating people to become a force for good in their life and in the world, and is also the name of my brand. We have a group here on Facebook, and I'm so grateful to be part of it. Now, I would be remiss if I did not at this moment say thank you to all of my Matrix sisters who are here online with me and also catching the replay for this incredible experience that we had last summer with Melanie and Leah, our mentor, that brought us together to put on this series. It has been a gift to work with these women, and I hope you've been catching a lot of their lives. All of them are on replay, and so you can always catch them. Kimberly says, more balance between wealth and poverty. My intention is to become the version of myself I see in my highest timeline. Wow, love that. Remember that we are from Earth so that we'll be more reverent and respectful of Earth. I love that. Love you, Diane. So I want to introduce you to the framework that I've created. Now, I'm a big fan of masculine energy and feminine energy working together in a dance. I grew up as a partner dancer. I've danced a lot of different partner styles, and my favorite thing in the world is when my partner, and I've danced with men and women and non-gendered people, and I love when I'm a follow that they create the frame of the dance for me. They can touch me on the hand and I know that they want me to turn. They can tap my elbow and I know I'm supposed to go this way. The beauty of the masculine energy structure is it gives me space to glow and to shine and to have a blast. And so when I created the DAREHuman brand, a year and a little, I guess it was a year and 8 months ago at this point. I love a good lead, me too. It was really about how do I create the structure of the container so that people can dance their way to having the things that they want and desire in their life, but also that we together are elevating humanity and Mother Gaia and Mother Earth, taking her with us on this journey. We came down as ascended beings to incarnate into humanity. We didn't come back as a tomato or a ladder. We came back as a human being so that we could be part of the elevation of humanity during this especially powerful time. So let me just check in a couple last intentions. Jocelyn, so beautiful. I achieved this. Now it's time to help others. And I must have missed something from Jocelyn. Let's see where I'm going here. Georgianne says to end fighting between countries and killing of innocent children and others and stop the greed in the world, which is hard to do. That's okay. We can work on it. Let's see. Hi, Stacia. So glad you're here. My dream is to help others realize that they can heal themselves and to make a domino effect. I love that. The masculine lead for the feminine flow to rise us all, listening to the whispers of the body. I love that. I love to listen to whispers. It's one of my favorite things. I love when my guides come in and they just whisper in my ear and they tell me. So the model that I created for DAREHuman, and if you just take a second and put your fingers like this, if you do not have the diagram that I posted in the group, this is the shape. This diamond shape is the shape of the DAREHuman movement, our model of change, this dance between the feminine and the masculine that allow these energies to come together and co-create the world that we desire. And the question is, how does this happen? How can I, as a regular person having an everyday life, become more extraordinary? And so this model really helps. It's based on 4 different archetypes. Hello, Manon. 4 different archetypes. And if you have the diagram, great. And if not, I'll point it out to you. So these archetypes, the base of it, we call the Alchemist. This is the one who heals her own emotional intelligence and activates your magic, your own magic, to allow change to happen in the world. Because change happens because we choose it. We often don't choose change because we're fearful. And this is where the alchemist comes in. The alchemy of this is the emotional intelligence to transmute different things we don't want, into things that we desire, emotions that are hard for us into emotions that are full of joy and promise. The alchemist is where all of this work happens. And so I believe that us fortifying this emotional foundation, allowing the feminine energies of beautiful emotions to come through, is a huge part of where this process starts. And some people here are building businesses online. Some of you are not. This model works for everything. We start with knowing ourselves. We start with the alchemy. And then we move to what I call the artist. So the artist sits at one corner of the diamond, and the artist is all about expression, purpose, passion, creativity. When I say artist, I don't mean a painter. It can be a painter. I mean a scientist, or Albert Einstein. To me, he was one of the greatest artists of all time. That he wasn't a sculptor and he wasn't a painter. He was an artist of science. He was an artist of the natural universe. He was an artist who could see things differently. I look at the artists as the innovators of life. And they can solve problems in the most extraordinary ways. And whether it's a Steve Jobs or an Oprah Winfrey or a Elon Musk, so many people who take their artistries, use their platforms to create change in the world. Now, some of that change is social conscious change, and some of it is just change. It's all good. But what we do in the artist, we activate and understand that we each have a true north. We each have the thing that keeps our heart going over and over again. I call it extra heartbeats. When you are living in alignment with the thing that lights up your heart, your soul, your mind, your spirit, your entire body, your entity. And we shine our heart light on something that activates our mind, activates our ability to grow deeper, higher, expand. This is the artist, and the artist is such a beautiful expression. And so many of us here online, we think of ourselves as artists because we're sensitive and we know that we could see what's possible. So many of you dropped beautiful things about what is the dream. And if you're just joining us, you can set your intention for this session below, and you can also tell us one thing that you would like to see different in the world. Something you dream, you woke up one day and it was different, or someday you wave your magic wand and it happens. Hi, Lindsay. Extra heartbeats. Yeah. I think when you are living on purpose, everything lines up, and your heart, it gets you out of bed in the morning. I've been waking up at 4 in the morning because I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to change the world today. What am I going to do? So these are the first 2 archetypes. Now, the next archetype, which sits over here, where these 2 archetypes have been a lot of feminine energy, a lot of creation, a lot of letting go and processing, peeling back layers, understanding who you are. We also need to actually put the pedal to the metal, right? This is the part of us, the accelerator. This is the part of us who knows how to get shit done, use strategy, and make money. Because there's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of artists who are working in their basement, in their garage, and they never make it because they don't know how to bring their gifts to the world. They don't know how to get things done. They're not great at project planning, and they resist it because the masculine energy of that planning is a turnoff for them. It feels too trapping. And I want to just say here, I love the Accelerator energy. I think that when we have that dance partner, the one who is so strong and can turn us, but when they turn us, they allow us so much space. I used to dance the Lindy Hop. It's the original form of swing dancing. You may have seen it. People throw each other over in the sky. They're called aerials. It's the most fun dance ever. It's so full of joy. It's down, it's dirty, it's fun. And what I love is when you're with a good lead, he swings you out and you have this space to do something special. It's your magic. That's the feminine. And yet I couldn't partner dance without a strong masculine energy, one that created the space and structure for you to move. This is what the Accelerator does. And so many of us, when we live in our hearts and live in our spirituality, the idea of stepping into the Accelerator archetype, it doesn't feel great. And I want to tell you, I want to show you that being in the Accelerator and understanding how to use strategy and how to create the ability to get shit done and actually make the money, make the activities that are going to open up your feminine channels to receive the money, that is sexy AF. Strategy is sexy, if you ask me. So that's the Accelerator archetype. Now, a lot of us stop there. We get to know ourselves, we are living on purpose, and then we are getting shit done and we're making the money and we're having an absolute ball. But there's another part of the DAREHuman diamond that is at the top, and I call this the advocate. This is the one where they are applying what I call inconvenient leadership to their daily lives, to their work, to their business. And they're bringing an added level of consciousness, a world consciousness, a humanity-centered consciousness, a planet-centered consciousness to everything they do in the other parts of the diamond. I think of this as Joseph Campbell once said, the whole idea of nirvana is getting to the place where you understand absolutely nothing and you're completely okay with it. To me, nirvana is understanding nothing from an intellectual standpoint, but on a spiritual plane, on the context of humanity, we feel it. And it's not nothing. It's the most epic, heartbeat creating way of living, if you asked me. I would love for women to know, really know they are beautiful. I would love to see all shine, going nuts, shining their light in this world with absolute confidence. This is my wish. I love that, Diane. That's absolutely beautiful. So I'd love for you to drop below right now. Each of us has all 4 of these archetypes in us. All of us do. And at different times, we have to call on different archetypes. Something happens in the world, you get upset. Something happens in your family, it hurts your feelings. You get triggered by someone or you trigger someone. We gotta call on our inner alchemist to help us navigate through the emotional intelligence that it takes for us to be able to show up in interpersonal mastery, that we learn how to manage ourselves. We learn how to hold our emotions, the first reactive emotion, and we learn to respond instead of react. We call upon our alchemist when this is the thing we need more than anything else. And when we're feeling confident, when we're feeling like we have our emotions in order, we can step deeply into that creative mode, the one that launches brands, the one that is showing you how you can do the teaching you do, how you raise your children, how you show up in this planet. That's your artistry. When we tap into our artistry, it's so we can solve problems. Something happens in your life, you have a flood in your house, you actually don't go to your alchemist, because then you'd be really upset about the flood in your house. You go to your artist and you say, how can I create a solution for this? How can I think creatively? How can I look at the situation differently? I always say, people say, think outside the box. I say, there is no box. Why put a box there to begin with? The artist is the one that we lean into. when we need to solve problems in our life, in our business, and in our world. And again, the Accelerator, this is the one that those of us who grew up with a ton of masculine energy and we've burnt out perhaps in our first career because all we did, and this was me, by the way, my company for 23 years was called the Accelerator because I was like, run, get stuff done, plan, project manage. I was a movie producer, right? I built a bunch of technology companies. Like I was always in startup mode, always on the run. I lived so much in my masculine energy because I was surrounded by dudes all the time. I was always the only woman in the room. And back then when women were not treated particularly well in the 80s and 90s, I was called every name under the sun because, well, it was a dude's world. And one of my personal things that I'm trying to do in this world is to recreate the world where women are not only equal, but the playing field has been changed. Right now we have a hierarchy in the world with a few men in power at the top and some women climbing the ladder. What if there was no ladder? One of the goals I have in this lifetime is to see what you can do to flatten the hierarchy and create opportunity for more people to use their artistry to bring to the world and get things done and make money from it. So they don't have to rely solely on their masculine doing energy. Who gets what I'm talking about here? I really want to make sure this is sinking in. And then the advocate, and you might notice on the diagram and how I'm talking about this, is a lightning bolt. The way you move through the Tao of DAREHuman, the way of DAREHuman, is by moving through the lightning bolt from the alchemist to the artist to the accelerator and then to the advocate. This is the gorgeous person who adds this additional consciousness, not just spiritual consciousness, but consciousness that makes sense because we're incarnated as humans. I will say this until the cows come home. I was not incarnated as a ladder or a tomato or a cow or a painting. I was incarnated as a human. So why is my human here? What am I supposed to be doing and leading and growing in this time? Thank you for the 10, Jocelyn. For those of you who are part of my world, we use 10s to say, I agree. And if someone gives a 2, it means, can you repeat that again? I'm not sure I caught it. I quit working for men the first time I was touched inappropriately after I kicked ass. I love that, kicked his ass. Oh my goodness, wow. So these are the 4 things that I believe we really need to lock into, to step into, to be a force for good in this world, to understand what it means. So I want to ask you, if you had to pick an archetype that you identify with most right now. Someone wrote me before this and said, I think I'm an artist right now. I think I'm an artist. I used to be an accelerator. What is the one? Lindsay, I love you. Have fun. Which one of these archetypes right now is the one that you sit in? Which one is the one that, oh gosh, you know, if I had to do it every day, I'd probably be in my artist. Or if you're the kind of person that can't yet process your emotions and you're still on the emotional roller coaster of life, maybe you're still in your accelerator and you're avoiding your alchemist because it's too hard to look at. The work feels too deep. Where are you? Georgina says, artist for me. How about the rest of you? Which one of these archetypes, if you had to choose one, is where you feel like your life is right now? Mariola says the artist and the alchemist. Very much the feminine energy. I love that. It's beautiful. How about the rest of you? Because here's what I want to posit to you. Every single one of you has all 4. Always. We live this lockstep. We move forward in life having all of these archetypes to tag, to bring in, to activate, to ask. When we tap into spirit, when we tap into our knowing, we can ask our guides to come and help us in any of these roles. And you know, I was inspired the other day. I was teaching a class and I was like, oh my gosh, everything in Ukraine happened. And spirit just came in and said, this is business usual with an asterisk. And as I said at the beginning of this talk, Business as usual with an asterisk is a consciousness. It's a way of noticing when you center humanity in your life and in your work. It brings a different consciousness to business as usual. That didn't exist in my world over a week ago. It came through because of this moment. When we tap into the artist, when we tap into the alchemist, when we tap into the accelerator. Hi, Sandy. So glad you're here. Let's see. Diane says she's the artist. Stacia says, I feel I'm at that artist. Katie says artist. All right, Sandy, if you want to know, there's a graphic I posted in the group that explains the archetypes that we're reviewing, and you can go grab it in another tab or just take a quick snapshot of it so you have it. Kimberly says, alchemy and artistry melt my soul. Isn't that beautiful? Now, for those of us who grew up in a world where the expectations of life were such that, you were supposed to go to high school, go to college, get married, have 2 1/4 babies, get a dog, have a picket fence, whatever life. Now, I've never been that life. Much to my parents' chagrin, I have never, ever been that person. But I was a highly sensitive person. And my high sensitivity meant that my alchemist was so undeveloped. My emotional intelligence was so low and my self-worth was so low that I did not live a life that I was happy about. But the interesting thing about my journey, and I like to say I'm a late bloomer because coming into this feeling for me, what I call Suzanne 20.3, I upgrade myself like software. Just like you upgrade your phone, I literally give myself upgrades, and I'm talk a little bit about that towards the end. But to become this version of me, I had to heal so much, because what I had done is I was very much in the alchemist and in the accelerator at the same time. I was in my wounded feminine and I was in my toxic masculine. Now, what was happening in my world, and I'm just gonna say this because these are my truths, I produced my first Hollywood movie at 27. By 30, I was building technology companies in Silicon Valley at the beginning of the internet. And then I went on to teach social entrepreneurship at Harvard. I've done a lot of cool things. But there was a time as I was going through this where I had literally bifurcated myself. There was my wounded feminine over here, and she was sad and broken and unlovable, sure that no one would ever see me, really see me, because I was so different from my family. My values were different. The things I believed in were different, and I could not be seen. And then I had this hyper-performing accelerator who went out and badassed her way through life. I got my first job out of college by sitting for 8 straight days in the lobby of the National Theatre of Great Britain until someone would hire me. I was a badass. My accelerator was strong. My problem solving was strong too. My creativity of how to achieve my acceleration was really powerful. But what would happen for me is that I would go out and do these badass things, produce a movie, build technology companies, advise some of the biggest companies in the world as a coach and a consultant. And I'd go home at night and my wounded feminine was broken. I was a mess. I got to the point where I actually tried to kill myself at one point. Thank God it didn't work. And when I got to my second suicidal period in my life, which was when I was 40, it was after I had a very severe neck surgery and put metal in my neck, and a terrible doctor who was a boundary crosser and overdosed me on every opioid in the planet for about 3 months until another doctor discovered she was doing it, and she claimed that she had fallen in love with me. That was another period in my life where the accelerator was doing her thing and the wounded feminine was like, I'm going to take myself out. I can't do this. So what we need to do is look at ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves, where have I done the work? Where have I grown? Where have I overgrown so that it's toxic? And where have I undergrown so it's toxic? So for me, I'd undergrown my alchemist. My artist was always in high power, and my accelerator was in the toxic masculine. Hence the name of my company for 23 years was the Accelerator. And when I developed this framework, what I had to bring into it was all the work I had done in feminine leadership, feminine energetics, understanding that leaning back was my magic, not leaning in. I remember when Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, wrote the book Lean In. And it was all about women have to lean in at the table. And all I could think was, I did that. I did that for 20 something years. I leaned in. And all it did was make me feel yucky, because my wounded feminine was not built up. My emotional intelligence had not been served and grown and taken the time to see who I am and accept me, the full, authentic version of me, no matter what anybody else thought or said. So as we go through this, we get to look at the sides of us, the places where we're overgrown and the places that we're undergrown. And we get to balance them out so that we have this beautiful lightning bolt through the Tao of DAREHuman, the way of DAREHuman, to take ourselves every time we're dealing with something in our life. We now have a framework for taking ourselves through it. Every day is different for me. It's a dance as I'm embracing, as each day comes with its own unique moments. I'm in my masculine getting shit done, and then in my feminine flowing with yoga, yet the bowspring yoga is the healing and strengthening of both. Gorgeous. Sandy says, I feel I may be the advocate. That's absolutely gorgeous. The thing about the advocate that I love so much is she's not afraid to look up. How many of you saw the movie Don't Look Up? This movie is so powerful. If you have not seen it, it's on Netflix. It's made by one of my favorite movie directors, Adam McKay. And it's about an asteroid coming to Earth. And the news media and the president of the United States trying to convince people it wasn't true. Don't look up. It's all about fake news and faking people out and manipulation. When you're an advocate, you're willing to look up. You're willing to incorporate into your life what is going on in the world. You're living in that asterisk, saying business as usual asterisk. And in that asterisk is the context and the consciousness, so that we're not living in blinders and saying, la, 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 my life is really awesome. My business is really awesome. I'm making tons of money. And yet the world needs you. The world needs me, it needs you, it needs all of us. If we want the direction of the world to go towards some of these dreams that all of us have about more income equality in terms of, saving our planet and allowing it to regenerate, in terms of, creating racial and social justice, we can't sit idly by and hope that it's going to happen, that someone else will do it. It's our job to do it. And the call of the DAREHuman is to raise your hand and say, I'm ready. It may be hard, it may be inconvenient, but I'm ready. So what I have observed over my lifetime and my last almost 24 months online is that a lot of people stop the lightning bolt. They stop at the accelerator, because they're making the money and it feels so good. Who doesn't want to make money? My business is all about making impact and income equal, making mission and money equal importance. I want to have as many hearts expanded as I have dollars come into my bank account. That to me is what this is about. But a lot of people who maybe weren't born with the calling I was born with stop at the accelerator because it feels good. And you think at the accelerator, like, okay, how can I get more clients? How can I make more money? How can I do these things? And sometimes we go back to the artist because something happened, we learned something, we got triggered by something. We go back to the artist, we might rebrand, or we might go down to the alchemist and go, oh, wow, I didn't know that I hadn't processed my feelings about money yet at that level. So why do people stop at the accelerator? Why is it that most people don't make it up to the advocate, the one who's willing to speak out, use her voice to benefit this world? What is it that we're afraid of? Why do we stop? The shift to advocate is big. I can feel the potential it has for us as individuals and the world. Yes, it is. But why don't we get there? So I've been watching this. I've been observing this. I've been observing our online community. I'm a learner. I'm a 1-3 in human design. I study and I experiment. That's what I do. I'm a generator, and I'm constantly looking and reacting and responding to what's going on in the world around me. And here's my belief. The bridge from accelerator to advocate, it's unstable. It's rocky for most people. It's inconvenient because at the end of the day, when you're exhausted and you have no energy to make dinner or to do the things you're meant to do, sometimes I order in food, and it might come in plastic containers sometimes, or if you get something from the grocery store and you eat it and the plastic container is there. It's so inconvenient to stop and wash it out, your hummus container, so it can go in the recycling bin. So much easier to just throw it in the trash. It's inconvenient to be aware. It's inconvenient to take into account the world around us because, well, it's not serving us directly, right? So what? This one time I'll throw it in the trash. When people ask me about these things, I wrote a post many, many years ago. I had a blog called The Social Age. It is now defunct. But I wrote a post in this blog, and it was called The Next Time You're Too Lazy to Recycle. And I kind of tracked what a lot of women in sub-Saharan Africa have to do every single day, which is that they walk 5 miles to a well that is clean water. And they fill up a jug, and they walk the 5 miles back with a jug on their head so that they can feed their family with clean water and they can cook with clean water. And I look at myself and I'm like, wait, you don't want to wash out your hummus container to recycle it? It's inconvenient. So here's the thing I want to say about inconvenience. The inconvenient leader is the one who's willing to walk that rocky bridge to advocacy. The inconvenient leader, the one who's willing to step into the inconvenience, the one who's willing to look up when everybody's trying to get you to look away. Because when we're looking away, when we're not paying attention, there is a group of people who have intentions for this world that create division, separation, hierarchy, racism, invasions of countries. When we're not watching, bad actors in this world are acting. When we're not doing something to counteract, and I know sometimes we look at it and we go, what can one person do? I was talking with Georgina from my team this morning, and she reminded me of the story of Greta Thurnberg. How many of you know who she is? This is a girl at the age of 16 who has changed the world in terms of climate crisis. One young girl. She climbed the rocky bridge to advocacy. And she said, I'm going to use my voice, even though I'm a kid and I think no one will look at me. And I remember when she actually had a Twitter fight with then President Trump because he needed to take someone down who had all of that power in front of her. We can be a Greta. There's no reason she's different than you and I are. It's that she was willing to go from the accelerator, from making money, getting shit done, and really like building a business like that. She was willing to look up and say, what's my thing? What's the one thing? And honestly, I don't care if it's you want to help your school get lunches for underprivileged kids who don't have lunch at school. That to me is changing the world. If you end up adopting children who are abandoned in Ukraine or somewhere else, that is changing the world. One thing. You don't have to do all of them. I can't do all of them. But I do my one or my two. And I use my life as an inconvenient way to lead. It would be so simple for me, who's a multi-millionaire, who's made tons of money doing all of the things I did in my toxic masculine, to all of a sudden teach all of you how to just make a boatload of money. And I'd be happy to do that. But there's a part of me that would be miserable. Because without looking at the context within which the energy of money exists in this current world, what are we actually building? So I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine. Thank you. That's awesome, Georgina. I'll check that out. Hello, Jennifer. I want to tell you a story that really pulls together the impact you can have as an advocate, going and working on your emotional intelligence, knowing yourself, living on purpose, getting shit done, making the money, and using your voice for good. I have a newish friend here online. His name is Ivan Rose Potter. He's an extraordinary human. Lives in the artist archetype, is a singer, is a spiritual healer, is a yogini, absolutely amazing person. And we had the good fortune of meeting, and our souls re-met. We remembered each other from whatever lifetime ago. I don't have insight into that stuff, so I trust the people around me, like Jennifer Donovan, to help me tap in to that kind of thing. Tara Lee, another person who helps me tap in to that kind of thing. And Ivan's another one of those people. So I'm having a conversation with Ivan the other day, and I'm telling him about conscious consumerism, and I'm talking to him about the advocate. And Ivan will tell you he doesn't watch the news. He doesn't pay attention. He hasn't watched for 9 years. And the reason is because it's hard. Who wants to look up? It's yucky. It's ugly. Climbing the bridge from Accelerator to Advocate is difficult. It means taking you out of your own vibe and doing something different, putting humanity and the earth at the center of how you think, how you live, how you work, how you grow. So I'm having this conversation with him, and I'm talking about Mitch McConnell, who is the minority leader in the Senate. He used to be the majority leader in the Senate under President Trump. And during 25 years of his tenure in the Senate, Mitch McConnell has had one thing that he's been trying to do here in the US. He has wanted to change the judicial system in the United States at the state and federal level to make sure that justices who served in cases against people or cases for and against policy, that they are conservative. That has been his one thing he wanted to do in this world. And I'm explaining this to Ivan. And how the reason we're having 19 states right now in the United States where voting rights are literally being backed up, taken away, are in the 19 states where those justices, those very conservative, Bible conservative justices, are making decisions. And I talked to him about conscious consumerism and the idea that, you can buy a shirt from a luxury brand, but that doesn't mean it's sustainable. It doesn't mean they treated their workers well while they were actually manufacturing it or producing the content of it. If you actually go out and learn about conscious consumerism, you'll learn there's an entire slave labor force of ethnic minority people in China who make a lot of goods and services. So I was talking to Ivan about this. We talk every couple Saturdays. We just get together. We got together last Saturday, and he had just gotten engaged. And he was so excited. I'm like, let me see the ring. And he's like this, showing me the ring. And he said to me, Suzanne, you were sitting right here on my shoulder. Your soul was sitting on my shoulder as I went shopping for my ring. And they went to Tiffany and they went to Burberry to pick out gifts for their celebration of their engagement. He said, you are sitting right here. And I'm asking the people at Tiffany's, are these diamonds ethically mined? Are their extractive practices actually good for the earth? Are the workers treated well? He's literally asking the people at Tiffany's these questions. And then he goes to Burberry and he's like, where was this manufactured? What is your labor force? How are they treated? And he says this to me and he's like, oh my gosh, you were just right there with me. And I thought, if I could get a percentage of people, a percentage of women to start thinking about how their luxury goods are made, or their goods in general, fast fashion, Zara, H&M, these stores used to have 4 seasons a year of fashion. They now have 52 seasons. It means we are in the mindset of constantly needing new clothing. Clothing is one of the worst industries in the world for this planet. What happens when you live in that asterisk and you become aware, conscious of what is going on around you? How does your behavior change? How do you think about this world when you put humanity and the planet in the center of your thinking? Who would you be if you did this? And when you choose to, this is how we walk the bridge from Accelerator to Advocate, because all of a sudden we are voting with our wallets. We are making decisions that put planet and people first. Mariola says, I've worked in luxury fashion and also diamonds and in China. This got me depressed for a long time. I love you were mentioning this. This conversation is healing and so much needed. Thank you. It is my pleasure. This is the thing. I just want to wake people up to this idea. My job here is not to be the one who goes and changes the luxury fashion industry or changes how diamonds are mined. My job here on this earth right now is to activate you so you'll figure out the one thing you want to change. That's my work. What is yours? Totally agree with you. I'm reducing my carbon footprint by offering larger sizes, less packaging. I love that, Diane, and I love that your products in your cosmetics line are plant-based and mineral-based, and they're ethically sourced. But sometimes our stuff isn't ethically sourced. If you collect crystals, I always try to ask, where did it come from? What was that mine? How were the people in that community treated? What if we started shopping, if we desire luxury, shop from a luxury sustainable brand? This is when you're crossing the bridge from Accelerator to Advocate, using your voice for good. That's why I chose a few years ago minimalism for material things. Beautiful. Tara says, yes. So how do we become this? How do we put consciousness of humanity and the planet? I call it people, planet, and profit. That's the order in which I think about things in my life. And I make plenty of money. Even though I put people and planet first, I still make all the money I desire. It's not one or the other. And we've got to break this paradigm that exists in the masculine hierarchy of life. The patriarchy has led us to believe that it's either money or making the world better. The nonprofit industry, you barely get paid any money for working in nonprofits. Oh, they're do-gooders. Those people who work at soup kitchens, I love them so much I can never be one of them. What if we stopped thinking about the world and things that were good for the world as the lowest paid people in the world? My friend Jennifer Donifit's on here. She is a teacher of 6-year-olds. Thank God someone of Jennifer's heart, intelligence, and spirit is teaching 6-year-olds. They're going to be amazing grown-ups. Can you imagine if people who did early childhood education were the highest paid people in the world? If they were teaching emotional intelligence from a young age? If they didn't have to stop bullying in high school because it was stopped at the source? That families were made aware of this stuff? Who would you be if you just took one action? At the beginning of this, I asked you, what's the one thing, if you could dream, that would be changed in the world? Now, you might not feel like you're up for changing the economic system here. I have a former private client. Her name is Victoria Mitchell. I encourage you to watch her everywhere online. She's absolutely incredible. And she left her job, a high-paying executive job at Burning Man, where she was in charge of building the entire 80,000 person city, pop-up city on the playa. for the Burning Man Festival. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. She left her job to try to work on democracy reform, because what she sees is that democracy is going down the toilet. And one of the things that I love so much about what's happening in Ukraine right now is that a nascent country who got their freedom and their independence 30 years ago had their first democratic elections 30 years ago, and they've been working on their democracy ever since, changing laws and policies to make them more fair and more representative. They are fighting with Molotov cocktails and other things right now. They're fighting to keep their country democratic. Now, I'm here in the US and people barely show up to vote, which means that the aggravated, what I call aggressive foxes in the world, the ones who want to change things to create more separation, they're the ones who are out there voting. If we're completely living in the artist and we're not paying attention to the world, we're missing the acceleration and the advocacy. And those are what are needed. Boots on the ground to make change for your one thing. So I want to ask you, who would you be now? As Rabbi Hillel said, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? If not you, then who? So think about your one thing. Are you willing to step into the role of the inconvenient leader? Are you willing to challenge yourself? It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. This is something that you can grow into gradually, a consciousness that you choose to expand upon. You figure out the one thing. I'm not asking you to go change the world always, but can you imagine if all 8 billion people on this planet, or even a small percentage of 8 billion people on this planet, decided that they wanted to make this world better for people, who they would be and who we would become? Our world needs you. It needs me. It needs us. And so I ask you to think about it. If not you, who? If not now, when? When can we begin this march? When can we pick our one thing that we want to make a change? It doesn't have to be your business, by the way. It can be something you do because you believe in it. Katie says, I'm also an advocate for mental health. I ran a local charity for 7 years and we struggled to get funding. So I decided I would figure out how to create my wealth myself and now teach with my podcast, poetry, and books on a bigger platform. That is so beautiful. This is the problem with the nonprofit industry. If you ever want to learn about the history of the nonprofit industry in the US, I'm happy to do a live about that on my brand new show that's coming out on YouTube called The Rise of the Untamed Fox. This is all about how do we speak up for good, so that the voices that are speaking up for separation don't take over the airwaves. That's my hope. It's my dream, is that this is who we become together when we choose to become a force for good in our lives and in the world. So as you're thinking about this, and as you're thinking about which archetypes do you need to lean into, I'd like to just take a few minutes of your time, if that's okay, to talk about ways that you can come in and be part of the DAREHuman community, be part of the DAREHuman world, to take on a DAREHuman persona and be what we call DAREHuman. She is DAREHuman. She's doing something so DAREHuman. We use it as a descriptor. It's a way of being. It's an archetype of its own. And it's a role. It's like a coat that we can each put on to say, I'm going to live in that asterisk. I'm going to be the inconvenient leader. So Ivan and I have had so much fun on just our connection calls that we decided we're going to do a masterclass together. And it's literally going to be called The Inconvenient Leader. It's going to be free. It's going to be at the end of March. And if you're interested in being part of the Inconvenient Leader, drop hashtag Inconvenient Leader below, and I'll make sure you get the information. But I do have a couple of other things that I want to talk to you about today. And if any of these feel like it's your right next step, just drop me a DM and we'll get you all set up. So I have a masterclass coming next week called Conscious as Fuck. It is all about consciousness in this world. Conscious as fuck. And we're doing a buy one, get one free. It's $111. If you buy it, you can bring a friend. If you guys decide to split the cost, that's up to you. $111, conscious as fuck. And we're following that up a week later with something called Consciously Rich. We want to show you what it means to use your consciousness to create wealth in your life and wealth all around you. So those two programs, they're each $111. You can drop hashtag below for either Conscious as Fuck AF, Consciously Rich, whatever you want, or you can always DM me and ask me what the heck's going on, or go to the DAREHuman group and find out more. So those two programs together, if you want to buy them together, the bundle is $177, and you can still bring a friend to Conscious AF. Now, a lot of people here online are just manifesting their own personal power. And for me, it's really important that we address what I call the grassroots, the grass middles, and the grass tops of changing the world. The grass roots are the people who are activating themselves. They're stepping into their alchemy. They're learning how to become more emotionally intelligent and be full of self-mastery and personal power. Some of us aren't quite there yet, and so that's the work we want to do. And I have a program, a membership called Theme of the Month Club. This is the most incredible container. I know some of you here are in it. Theme of the Month Club, I offer up a theme. This is the theme we're closing today. I compare myself to no one but me. I surround you with phone wallpaper. I surround you with music and movies to look at through the lens of this theme. We give you journal prompts and activations. It's $55 a month with a 3-month minimum. It is so powerful if you are a kind of woman who really is looking to get that strength underneath you so you can head to being an advocate someday. It's a really cool container. Now, if you're a woman who has a business, if you're an entrepreneur, and you are scaling to 6 figures and beyond, I have a special container for you. One that really shows you how to implement the entire Tao of DAREHuman into your work. It's an incredible container called the Elevate Her. It's my semi-private coaching and mastermind container. The women in there are all building 6 and multiple 6-figure businesses. And the thing about their businesses, they're all purpose-driven. They're impact-driven businesses. So they're here to make a difference on the planet. And if you are the kind of woman who wants to be in a container where you get semi-private coaching from me in front of the group every week, so you're learning what they're being coached on and what I'm giving them information on, and I also share what's going on contextually in the world and what I'm seeing that they are going through during the week. This is the most intimate, fun, expansive container. And right now we have 2 spots remaining at the current investment level, which is $17,777 for the full year. And there's a payment plan if that's of interest to you. So that is my Elevate Her Mastermind. And then there's one more thing I want to tell you about. And that is the most incredible container that literally channeled through me a couple weeks ago. It's called the Blueprint for Home. Home is an acronym for Heaven on Mother Earth. I want to take 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs on a journey to create a blueprint for heaven on Mother Earth. This very special container has not launched yet. It's application only. It is for women who are making high 6 figures and above to actually take their spiritual magic and genius and give them a toehold on the earth so that they can elevate humanity with them and become the advocate. This is about taking alchemy, the magic of alchemy, and going straight up to advocacy. So if this sounds like you, this is going to be a very powerful container. It's not starting yet. This is the first time I'm actually mentioning out loud. To me, creating a blueprint for heaven on Mother Earth is going to be a game changer. There's only going to be 10 people allowed into that program, and we're going to go deep about how you can walk the bridge from Accelerator to Advocate and become the kind of human who is centered on people, centered on planet, and also making fantastic profit. So I hope that out of today you feel like there is a way for you to make a difference in this world. I hope that you start to feel that you can become a force for good, not just in your own life, but a force for good in this world, because it's not that hard when you pick your one thing. And my hope for all of us is that more people, more of humanity begins to choose to make a difference here on Mother Earth. She needs us. We need us. I need us. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you really liked what's going on here today and what we're talking about, I invite you to come be part of the DAREHuman community and any of the programs I mentioned. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time. I know it's valuable. Thank you for going with me on a journey that's not easy. But the path less traveled never is. Let's walk it together. I love you. Have a beautiful rest of your day.